Every summer, your house is fighting a war it was never designed to win. The sun hits the roof. Heat builds in the walls. The attic turns into an oven. The air inside gets heavy, sticky, and uncomfortable. And then the modern solution kicks in. A giant metal box outside your house starts screaming, pulling thousands of watts from the grid, pushing hot air out, forcing cold air in, and adding another painful number to your electric bill. But here is the strange part. Just a few feet below your yard, the temperature is already cool. Not because of a machine, not because of a refrigerant, not because of a compressor, because the Earth itself stays far more stable than the air above it. On a summer afternoon, the air above your lawn might be 95 degrees. Your roof might be even hotter. Your attic might feel like a furnace. But underground, the soil is dramatically cooler. That is the forgotten idea behind a buried cooling loop. Instead of using electricity to fight heat with a loud outdoor machine, you use the ground as a natural heat sink. You run water through a buried loop of tubing, let the earth pull heat out of that water, then bring the cooler water back toward the house and pass air across it. It sounds almost too simple. A pipe in the ground, a small pump, a radiator, a fan, and cold air. But the physics is the same principle behind caves, root cellars, old spring houses, and basements that feel cool even when the rest of the home is sweating. The Earth is slow to heat and slow to cool. It does not panic every time the weather changes. It stores temperature like a massive thermal battery beneath your feet. And if you can tap into that stability, you can take a huge load off your air conditioner. This is why professional geothermal systems exist. They use the ground because the ground works. The difference is that professional systems often wrap that simple idea inside expensive equipment: installers, permits, pumps, controls, and a price tag that can climb into the tens of thousands. But the buried loop idea is much simpler. It does not try to replace an entire HVAC system for every house in every climate. It asks a smaller, smarter question. Can the cool ground help cool one room, one workshop, one cabin, one summer kitchen, or one part of a home without running the central AC all day? And in the right conditions, the answer is yes. Picture a coil of water-filled tubing buried several feet below the yard. The water moves slowly through the loop. As it travels underground, it gives up heat to the surrounding soil and comes back cooler. Inside the house, that cooler water passes through a small radiator or heater core. A fan blows room air across it, and the air coming out feels cooler. No compressor, no outdoor condenser, no refrigerant, no giant startup surge. Just water carrying heat into the ground. And here is the part most people do not realize. Water is incredibly good at carrying heat, much better than air. That is why a small pipe full of water can move more thermal energy than a much larger air duct. It is also why your body cools faster in cold water than in cold air. Water transfers heat aggressively. That makes a buried water loop much more compact than an air tube system. An earth tube that moves air might need large buried pipes and long runs to make a noticeable difference. A water loop can use smaller tubing because water does the thermal heavy lifting. That is why old rural builders, homesteaders, and off-grid tinkerers have kept coming back to this idea. It is not glamorous. It is not app-controlled. It does not look like the future. But it works with something the property already has. Cool Earth. The trick is that the system has to be designed honestly. A loop buried too shallow will disappoint you. The top layers of soil heat up with the weather, so if the pipe is only just below the surface, the cooling disappears exactly when you need it most. A loop that is too short will also disappoint you. The water will not spend enough time underground to shed much heat. And an indoor radiator without condensation control can create another problem. When warm, humid air hits a cold surface, water collects. The same thing happens on a glass of ice water. So, if a buried loop is used indoors, it needs a drip tray, drainage, and common sense. This is where many viral versions of this idea go wrong. They make it sound like anyone can bury a few feet of pipe and replace central air forever. That is not true. A small buried loop is not magic. It will not cool a huge, poorly insulated house by itself in the middle of a desert heat wave. It will not fix a blazing attic, leaky windows, or a home that gains heat faster than any small system can remove it. But it can do something extremely valuable. It can reduce the load. It can cool a bedroom at night. It can take the edge off a workshop. It can make a cabin comfortable. It can give one main living space a steady stream of cooler air while using a fraction of the power of a central air conditioning unit. And sometimes, reducing the load is the whole game, because your air conditioning does not become expensive only because it runs. It becomes expensive because it runs constantly. Every hour you keep heat out, move heat away, or cool one space without firing up the main system is an hour your utility company does not get to charge you for a full compressor cycle. That is why this forgotten loop is so interesting. It does not ask you to believe in impossible technology. It asks you to notice something obvious that modern homes often ignore. The ground is cooler than the summer air. The ground is already there. And for most people, nobody ever tells them to use it unless they are buying a very expensive geothermal package. That is the uncomfortable part. The basic physics is simple, but simple systems do not always become mainstream. Not because they fail, but because they are awkward to sell. An HVAC company can sell a new AC unit. A geothermal installer can sell a high-end system. A manufacturer can sell smart thermostats, filters, service contracts, refrigerant repairs, and replacement cycles. But a coil of pipe in the dirt connected to a small pump and fan? That is harder to turn into a business empire. It has no glamorous brand story. It has no subscription. It has no annual service plan. And once it is buried, the most important part of the system just sits there quietly, doing its job. That is why old, low-tech cooling systems are worth looking at again. Not because every old idea is better, but because some old ideas were pushed aside before most people ever understood them. Root cellars worked because the ground was stable. Spring houses worked because moving water stayed cool. Caves stayed comfortable because the earth buffered temperature. A buried cooling loop uses the same forgotten logic and adds one modern improvement: cheap tubing and a tiny pump. That is all. The best version of this system is not a fantasy where you never need air conditioning again. It is a practical tool in a larger cooling strategy. Shade the windows, vent the attic, seal the obvious leaks, run the buried loop where it makes sense, cool the room you actually use. Let the central air conditioning rest instead of forcing it to carry the whole summer by itself. That is how older homes survived before every answer came in the form of a machine. They layered simple systems. Shade reduced the heat entering. Ventilation moved hot air out. Thermal mass slowed the temperature swing. Cool ground and water handled what the house could not. Modern life compressed all of that into one device outside the wall and called it progress. But when the bill arrives, progress suddenly looks expensive. So maybe the real question is not whether a $60 buried loop can replace every air conditioner in America. Maybe the real question is why we stopped designing homes around the free cooling already beneath them. Because the earth under your yard is not waiting for a technician. It is not waiting for a new model. It is not waiting for a service contract. It is just sitting there, cooler than the summer air, doing what it has done for millions of years. Holding steady, absorbing heat, and reminding us that comfort does not always have to come from a machine. Sometimes it comes from remembering where the cold already is.